Quick introduction to Cintra. We are a global Oracle services partner. Been around 20 years and really grown up in the Oracle world around traditional database architects, but very quickly evolving to enterprise architects. And in the last 5 years, we've seen that converged systems has significantly transformed our business, accelerated customers' adoption of technology, but also the conversations we're having with customers has really evolved from the typical database-centric conversation to now very much architecture-led conversation. So Cintra is all about that architecture-led expertise. We've been around for 20 years. We're headquartered in New York, founded in New York, and I'm one of the co-founders myself, ex-Oracle from many years ago. So we've lived and breathed the Oracle world from the outside, the Oracle engine, as well as being inside the engine. So we can be quite objective in terms of our view of Oracle's evolution and the technologies they bring to market. But that's really the key value for ourselves, is to be the objective third-party advisor. We don't subject our customers to the brand new technology systems that come out. We make sure we vet them, we blueprint them, we validate them to ensure that they work, and we don't expose our customers to some of the pain of some of the newest technology. So it's certainly a key inflection point at this point with cloud. There's a lot of hype. We're the first ones to say, okay, let's get on this bandwagon, but let's make sure it's there. It's fully mature. We'll see what's really fully mature and what's out there. So it's our job to make sure that we validate that. Driving Oracle architecture solutions is also at the heart of how we've been doing business for the last 5 years. The Oracle message is key. So we firmly believe that running Oracle technology on Oracle infrastructure and Oracle Cloud is the best combination of getting the most out of the Oracle investment, which we all know can be significant. And also providing customers with a one-stop shop, so design, build, and support. We understand, we've all experienced the Oracle sales experience, very energetic, heavy pre-sales, heavy focus, a ton of people calling you, usually maybe 20 or more reps, because they all have their agenda in terms of what they're driving out of the Oracle technology kit bag, if you like. But our job as architects is to bring that together into a solution and make sure that that those various teams within Oracle are driving the customer's agenda, not their own agenda. So again, I'm being a little harsh at Oracle at times, but it's the reality of Oracle. It's great technology, but they have to evolve, and the organization has to evolve at this point, because you cannot be successful in cloud these days without looking at how you succeed in cloud. It's not just about the transaction and then moving on. From an Oracle sales perspective, it's about the investment and how you maximize that and see it to fruition. And Oracle really has to now appreciate and understand that customers have choices. So before, if you bought an X data, you were stuck with the X data, and you had to make the most of that and maximize that investment. With cloud, you can spin on a dime. You can decide, okay, this isn't working, I'll go somewhere else. So Oracle really has to appreciate that and understand that. So we're taking a lot of our time, and our existence is about making sure that Oracle organization understand that. The product teams are very talented, technology is great, but the sales and marketing side of things is something that we're working hard to make sure that they mature in that conversation as well. So in providing not only the solution, the architecture solution, and bringing together the pieces of the Oracle technologies, we also provide the commercial conversation around that as well. And it's getting more and more complex with cloud these days to specifically architect, but also financially and commercially engineer the right mix of technology and how they're priced as well. And sorry, I forget to introduce my co-speakers. We're doing a bit of a Three Amigos trifecta today in terms of speaking. So Kyle Smith, our cloud lead out of Dallas, will be joining us for a few minutes, and also Simon Rice, our VP of Enterprise Services. So really quickly, just finish on Cintra. We're all about trust and architecting our customer success. That's why we exist. So our brand is about making sure that we architect the solution that works, and we've done that for lots of brand names. Bed Bath & Beyond, one of our house accounts, JetBlue Airways. We've transformed JetBlue, the fifth largest airline in the US, from traditional infrastructure into a true private cloud infrastructure, and now rolling up towards fully cloud adoption as well. And a real mix of industries, financial services, retail, healthcare, and so on. So this slide is really a lot of common sense, right? We all say the technology world is about getting on with business. It's about removing the traditional IT blockers, and we really say this is our mission in life, is helping customers get on with business and not have to worry about the technology. And it's interesting, we're doing a lot of work around architecture assessment. So before we go jump 2 feet first into cloud, let's understand where we're coming from. So we're doing a lot of work in parallel to our cloud roadmaps and our cloud workshops and assessments should drive customers to take a step back and reflect on what they've got and where they're coming from. And that really summarized in this kind of deliverable. So it's interesting, we work from the bottom up with technologists, DPAs, architects, engineers, but the real power in these assessments is helping the C-level, the C-suite, the CIOs, the CEOs, understand what they've got. And more often than not, the technologists try to converse and to express themselves in terms of where they're coming from, but a third-party independent advice. We do effectively we run a 30-day assessment on any legacy architecture and provide the customer with this kind of, and this was actually just a deliverable just delivered 30 days ago for an Oracle and HP EMC combination of architecture that hadn't been maintained, hadn't been patched or looked after, but sometimes the customer even went as far as cancelling their Oracle support because they said, look, this is just too much money and we don't see the value of that. So we simply ask one question to the customer: are you looking to grow and evolve and really move ahead with your business rather than looking to diminish and go backwards? And the customer said, no, I want to grow. I'm here to drive my business. Instead of, you need to listen to what we found and understand how we go when we move from here. So really, that's the tone of our message today: is look at your on-premise, do an honest assessment of where you're coming from, deliver that message to the C-level, help them understand that without addressing the traditional, topics around patching and security, they're really going to have some challenges moving to the cloud. You have to modernize your on-premise infrastructure before you go full force into the cloud itself. So at this point, let me just bring on Simon. Simon's going to give you some of the detail around what we mean by modernizing on-premise and what that means in terms of cloud strategy. Thanks.
Cool, thanks, Abdul. So, a year ago, the same three amigos came out here. We did a talk about what's coming in terms of the future in cloud. What's coming and what should be our roadmap in terms of getting there. And, we talked about a lot of the things that people are already doing. I think most people are aware that they need to standardize and upgrade to the latest versions. I think most people in terms of database technology have some kind of a roadmap to database 12c. And I think we're going to hear some compelling reasons tomorrow as to why we should be considering 12.2. Consolidation as well, I think, as particularly as CPUs have more cores, and we look at environments that now have 20, 40, 60 CPU cores in a box. There's certainly an awareness that the software licensing around those cores can become exponentially expensive, and therefore consolidation makes sense from a financial point of view, and there may be no option but to consider it. So I think, again, consolidation is something that people have on their roadmaps. And modernization as well. I think there's certainly a trend towards Linux, Intel-based architectures, towards storage units that can do snapshots and copy on write technologies, and much more agile, modern technology underpinning our database and our application estates. Managing our data, I think, is something that most people are aware of and need of, may not have a roadmap to at this point. And when we talk about data management, it's really about developing an information lifecycle management policy so that our most active data, our hottest data, as it were, sits on our tier 1 real estate, our most performance storage. And as that data becomes colder and more static, we age it out using inbuilt Oracle technology like partitioning and heat maps and data optimization, and age that onto more cost-effective storage platforms to really extend the lifespan of our tier 1 platforms. And I think around data, it also brings into question, what are we doing with big data? I think at the moment, probably last year when we stood here, big data was something that people could ignore. I think this year more than ever before, now that we're talking about machine learning and around artificial intelligence and some of the benefits for mining that big data, I think the business benefits for retaining it and making use of it are stronger than they ever have been. Agility as well, I mentioned the need for a modern platform with some sort of snapshotting capability. One thing we see as a key problem out there among our clients is the ability to spin up new environments, the ability to service the business with new environments that they require in time frames that are competitive. And the ability to do that using snapshot capabilities that can do that in minutes rather than days is very, very key. And we'll talk about some technologies behind that in a second. And obviously the ultimate goal here is cloud adoption, and again, we'll come back to that. So, really what we were looking at a year ago in terms of cloud was lowering our costs, faster time to market and agility, being able to just focus on business, as Abdul said, and also innovate and free up our IT people to do more that's of value to our business rather than just keeping the lights on. So what's changed over the last year since we last stood up here and talked about cloud? So certainly we predicted that there was going to be a heavy focus on private cloud adoption, and really the idea of people wanting to get their feet wet before taking the plunge into a full public cloud commitment. And that's been very much the case. There are certainly use cases where we see public cloud as attractive, but the focus has really been on building internal private clouds. And because of that combination of public versus private, we end up with these hybrid models that are becoming more and more the status quo. The Oracle Cloud, as we saw yesterday from Larry Ellison, has added a whole host of new capabilities, and we'll drill into a few of those more exciting ones. Microsoft actually dropped a real bombshell recently by removing a ULA that existed over their Azure platform. So now if you actually buy a database as a service and run Oracle on Microsoft's Azure platform, you have to bring your own licenses, which is something which is, almost looks like Microsoft saying, actually, I don't want to play in the Oracle database game anymore, I'm voting myself out. So that's, changes the landscape slightly. In terms of landscape as well, we have new players. DigitalOcean emerged over the last year and has eaten more of a market share in terms of IaaS than Google has. So again, a very rapidly changing marketplace. Because of that, we then have these cloud service brokers who you can go to buy cloud. We see most of our customers buying multiple clouds from multiple vendors for different reasons. And these cloud service brokers really build a business in reselling that cloud and helping architect that. As well as that, they're very good at keeping an eye on over-engineering of cloud and managing the costs, because certainly we've seen some of our customers go into the cloud, get a little over-enthusiastic about test and dev environments and build themselves an environment which is costly to license, costly to maintain, and doesn't really give them the cost efficiencies they're hoping for. The other hot topic that we're going to circle back to in a minute is Oracle's purchase of Revelo recently, which gives us a huge capability to move VMware environments into the cloud in a very, very efficient and easy fashion. And as architects within Cintra, one of the things that we've been aware of for a long time is Oracle's stringent licensing rules around using VMware. And we come across many customers who run Oracle on a VMware estate, and we find that they're therefore out of compliance. They assume that Oracle's going to respect the CPU core pinning on their VM guests, which is obviously not the case in Oracle's licensing rules, and therefore we find that they're massively under-licensed and out of compliance. The ability to take that VMware estate, very easily lift and shift it into the Oracle Cloud using Revelo, and therefore build them a compliant platform which is respected from a CPU core licensing point of view, could be huge and could save people literally millions of dollars in Oracle licensing. So we see that as a game changer as well. Some other interesting things that we found, so certainly as I say, private cloud adoption has improved. The number of clouds within our customers is interesting. We find that people are on average using around 6 cloud providers for various SaaS and PaaS and IaaS type use cases. And that seemed a little excessive to me when I read it, but actually the more I think about it, if I were in that position in designing a new architecture, would I really want all of my eggs in one basket? And certainly, as much as Amazon AWS has been a very well adopted platform over the years, there are still benefits to having your data backed up somewhere else to another cloud provider. It's no different to if you were using one data center provider and sending to another one. The level of data in the cloud has grown as well. We're looking at nearly 20% of enterprises with more than 1,000 VMs running in the cloud. So yeah, again, the idea that the cloud is somewhere that you just put your small departmental systems is really changing. As the cloud is becoming more capable, obviously the adoption and the size of the environments is rising. The other thing that's really developed over the last year, especially in relation to the Oracle Cloud, is that security is no longer the biggest barrier. We used to have people say, yeah, I'd love to look at cloud, but really, how can I do that if I need PCI compliance or FINREC or HIPAA or various regulatory requirements? Now that those solutions to those problems are appearing within every cloud provider, we're now looking at environments where people say, actually, I know I need to get to the cloud and I know I need to use it in some fashion, but I need the thought leadership to design how I get there, and I need the services and the personnel and the resources to allow me to actually achieve that migration. And that's much more a barrier now than security and capabilities. The other thing we're seeing that kind of goes hand in hand with that is that cloud used to always be about cost. It was always, I want to do things cheaper, I want to save money on my in-house infrastructure. Now that's still the case. There are still cost efficiencies to be made in moving to a cloud architecture. But primarily we're seeing people move to the cloud for capabilities these days. It's much more around I want an elastic environment that I can scale up as I get into my busy season in the holidays. Or I want some capabilities that I just can't get. And conversely as well, the idea that the cloud is less secure than on-premise is really starting to turn on its head with the fact that most cloud environments are actually patched aggressively or in line with the latest security fixes, and therefore may actually be more secure than your on-premise infrastructure. DevOps has increased, and the other thing that we're seeing as well is, as I alluded to earlier, is the need to keep a finger on the pulse of the costs of your cloud, and the ability for developers to just spin up new instances in Amazon AWS. We've seen customers be really burned by that when it comes to actually paying for those instances and the sprawl of that estate, particularly if we're looking at metered models where we need to monitor the usage and shut those down in off-peak periods. So in terms of Cintra's customers and what we're actually doing with the cloud, the real hot topics that we're seeing in the real world today are e-business suite. We see a lot of people doing e-business suite lift and shift into the cloud. That can be a PaaS solution. You can run e-business suite as a platform as a service from Oracle. You can use the database platform as a service behind that as well. We typically see more people using infrastructure as a service, especially if they're bringing their own licenses for that, because they have so many customizations. It just makes more sense. Retail as well, we see a lot of people running Oracle ATG, that's a very good fit for a cloud architecture. We're even seeing people with on-premise and cloud architectures running retail applications and doing replication between those using tools like Golden Gate. The storage archive cloud is a real hot topic, and I think if you don't know about it, in a nutshell, you can buy 100 terabytes of storage archive cloud for $100 a month. The price point for it is so compelling that it can't be ignored. You know, that's Oracle's way of catching up after coming into this late in the game. And business intelligence cloud services. There are some great visualization and BI type technologies available in a cloud architecture. You don't need your data in the cloud necessarily. You can use BI cloud services pointed at your on-premise data and still get the benefits of the new cloud technologies there. So these, I would say, if we had to pick our 4 top areas where our customers are migrating to the cloud, this is what we're looking at. So in terms of what we do, and as Abdul alluded to earlier, we do a lot of assessment before advising anyone to move to the cloud. And really the whole question is, do we have our house in order internally? Because in order to get these capabilities of elasticity and agility of our platform, there's no point trying to do that in the public cloud unless we have capable architectures in our private clouds first. So the big question, first of all, is how evolved are we in terms of our architecture? So we look at a number of areas. You know, do we have high availability and true high availability that allows us to do zero downtime failovers within a site? Do we have that same capability remotely to be able to quickly establish our remote site? Have we looked at consolidation strategies and essentially reducing our license footprint so that we can adopt some useful Oracle options and additional software options without crippling cost overheads in terms of doing that? Have we looked at converged infrastructure and appliance-based architectures so that we can rapidly spin up and provision new environments using the typical wizard-driven approaches that they offer? Are we on the latest Oracle versions? How are we managing our environments using, are we using the latest and greatest tools such as some of the Enterprise Manager plugins for provisioning and streamlining those processes? And also, how do we do reporting as well? That's a key thing. You know, I think a lot of people still in this day and age do reporting off of their primary production environments, and the ability to do real-time reporting without impacting production is key. Again, looking at security around cloning and provisioning and optimized license platforms is where we would be. And we wrap this up, as Abdul said, in something of a scorecard that allows us to look in a very traffic light driven way at where our pain points are and where we're doing okay. And it just allows us to identify the gaps and resolve them. This is a pretty ugly picture of someone who was running a huge database on standard edition on an unsupported Oracle version with a lack of security around the platform. But certainly, a lot of these problems around lack of patching, lack of agility, lack of scalability and performance are very common around our customers that we see out there. So our goal is obviously to address these either using our current investment or to put in place a roadmap to get to something which is much more modern, much more agile, and allows us to look more at building a private cloud model. Now, what we're essentially trying to do here with our private cloud is leverage our on-premise infrastructure. And we could, as Larry Ellison was talking about yesterday, there are some now customer at cloud, they call them, models where you can essentially rent an Exadata or a big data appliance or essentially a cloud appliance, put it in your data center and have Oracle manage all of that for you on a subscription basis. And that's all well and good, but if you've got your own investment in IT and you want to maximize that, what we're really talking about with a private cloud is developing an as-a-service model around that. So really it's a framework that allows your developers the agility to spin up new environments within a controlled manner, and therefore we can still manage the way that they do that, but allow them the agility they need to meet regulatory and business requirements. From an operational point of view, allowing us not only to manage the environment in a streamlined and efficient way, but also to monitor the usage of that environment and charge it back to internal business units if we want to. And really, most importantly, from a business point of view, how do we adopt new markets and new opportunities and react to those so much faster, so that we have really a foot up over our competition. So that's really our goal in terms of building a private cloud architecture. And what we want to get to is something as I'm showing here on the right, where we have, on the left-hand side of the diagram, we have our on-premise architecture. In this case, we're looking at Exadata, which is a great platform for consolidation. I think the days of people just buying an Exadata for an application because they see a 20x performance improvement in a SQL query are probably gone. Exadata is much more capable now for managing a variety of different workloads. We can have our warehouse and our transactional databases running on the same frame with workload managed. The ZFS storage appliance as well, we would see as a real key component in this kind of, the architecture on the left, where we're building a private cloud database as a service solution for a few reasons. One, it allows us to take very, very fast backups from Exadata or any commodity platform, and for that matter, it pretty much backs up the Oracle database as fast as anything else can. We can then take those backups and then spin those off in seconds as clones as well. So if we have a requirement for a new, if we have a new regulatory requirement, if we need a new development test, QA, patch test, performance test environment, we can spin those up in seconds and provision those to our developers. And we can orchestrate all of that through Enterprise Manager as well, or have it scripted automatically. And then the other model that we're showing here on the left is the Oracle Database Appliance, which is an engineered system similar to Exadata, doesn't have all of the secret sauce and all of the performance benefits, but still allows us in a more cost-effective manner to build a development and test environment. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we look at this kind of tiered model where we have our most business critical applications running on Exadata. The Oracle Database Appliance can serve as standbys, as test dev, for more departmental type applications. And then on the right here, we can be looking at the Oracle Cloud for development, for disaster recovery, test environments, and Carl's going to go into a lot more detail as to how we build those architectures out in a second. So I'm going to hand over now to Carl Smith around if we have our house in order internally, we have our agile, cost-effective environment internally, how do we then extend that into the public cloud?
One of the things I get to do is I get to work with customers first about educating them about what we're talking about from a cloud perspective, and then really move forward. So first, just a few terms that you guys have already seen, probably since being at Open World. But one thing is good to go through, right? So cloud, when we talk about getting a public or private cloud, we're really talking about three different buckets: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Infrastructure as a service is going to be everything that you would think of that you're going to put into your data center, right? You need to have the capabilities of compute, storage, and network. Once you are adopting or maturing beyond that, you can move into the platform world. And the platform world is where you're actually providing specific tooling to a group of end users, typically developers, right? So that they can go develop something, either with data, like big data capabilities, business intelligence, Java type workloads, or even Windows C# type workloads, right, as a platform. And the same thing with mobile, and now even with the Internet of Things type of devices that we're actually developing. And then SaaS is where you would play in a typical vendor-managed solution, right? So Oracle obviously has a lot of those in their ERP, and they talked a lot about it in the keynote. There's other solutions out there such as Salesforce and Workday. And really what we try to help is help customers understand exactly where they are and what level, whether infrastructure, platform, or software is going to be the best place for them to engage as an as-a-service model. Because the reality is for all of our customers, cloud is here and now. And what we're trying to help is, we're really trying to help businesses and enterprises understand how to actually adopt the cloud, because everyone has this on their initiative now. Now, regardless of where you're actually going to be implementing infrastructure, platform, or software, there's some core key tenets. And I actually built this slide out in 2008 when I was really starting to do a lot of private cloud adoptions. And one of the questions I kept getting asked is, what is the description of what an as-a-service model is? And so the team that I was working with, we came up with what are the layers of support. And we decided that regardless of whether or not you're in the storage compute area, or if you're at deploying databases or integration, or even if you're deploying full-grown applications such as an ERP system, these are the things that you actually need to adopt an as-a-service model. And they're right there, right? Multi-tenancy, you need to be able to have multiple tenants on your platform. Scale up, scale down, self-service, security, single sign-on capabilities, administration, configuration management, which is really big for automation, monitoring and alerts. You need to be able to actually monitor and alert, not just as not as an individual instance level, but also at a global level. And analytics and reporting, right? You actually need to be able to report on what you've deployed to understand if you're being successful in your model. And again, it doesn't matter if it's IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, regardless of what level you want to play at, you absolutely need to make sure that all those tenants are going in. So one of the things I work with customers on, who especially who've already started the journey, is I take these lists of tenants, ask them if they agree with them or disagree with them, ask where you are as kind of on that architecture scorecard across these, because what we want to do is embrace the technologies that are going to help you more fastly adopt to get to the level of maturity your organization needs, right? And part of it is we also want you to help pick the right provider based on what your business is, not just what the Gartner Magic Quadrant says. So beyond just the Oracle Cloud, we work with several cloud providers. We work with Amazon Web Services and around what they're good at, OpenStack is what they're good at. We don't really work with SoftLayer, but I put them on the slide. Global Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, and obviously Oracle Cloud Solutions. And regardless of which vendor you want to go with, each of them has probably a place in your enterprise, quite honestly. And it just really depends on your strategy. So we want you to know that a multi-cloud strategy works. So with that in mind, just real quick, what do you guys think Amazon Web Services is probably really good at? Come on, class participation. It's in the name. It's really easy.
Web services.
Web services. They're really good at web services. So anytime I'm talking to somebody about a real lightweight, containerized, distributed system, Amazon Web Services, spinning up EC2 instances, or using some of their other platform services that allow for orchestration and management, probably makes sense. OpenStack, what are they? It's in the name again. They're open, right? So OpenStack is really cool because what they did is they created a consortium about how are these standardized APIs that we have that you can use within your enterprise. So when we're talking to customers about deploying private clouds, we want you to be able to have standard APIs that you're using so that you can integrate with all of the other platforms out there. It's become the common language when you talk about a multi-cloud deployment. So it's very important even if you don't have a native OpenStack deployment. SoftLayer, right, they're good with IBM, they're an IBM company. Microsoft Azure, it's in the logo. They're really good at Windows. Google Cloud Platform, again in the name, they want to be platform. Natural language processing, go to Google. High levels of algorithms, go to Google. They have some really good things that they're at. Oracle Cloud Solutions. Oracle is really trying to focus on the enterprise cloud solution. And so one of the reasons that we have begun really adopting a lot of the Oracle technologies is because they're mature enough to provide a holistic solution around a lot of the enterprise services that we expected to do. But how are we actually doing this? So here's another video that we've done for an actual customer that wanted to go to RDS. So just so you know, we don't just play in the Oracle space. And what they said is they wanted a lightweight, self-managed database system that they wanted to use. So what we did is we said, okay, let's do a bake-off and look at what you want to do. And we were able to build this out, showing them that you can deploy your Oracle database across zones. We actually can handle all the security components, managing security groups through VPC, handling regions, handling backups through the database snapshots with S3, so that they can deploy it in another region if they need to, using cloud-native solutions like CloudWatch and Alarms to actually be doing the alert and monitoring, right? And brought this to the customer because this specifically met their needs. Now, when we were doing this, actually, this was really before a lot of the Oracle Cloud solutions were mature. And so what we did is we decided to go with that. But now what we're doing with customers is actually being able to deploy the Oracle Cloud solutions as well. And whether that's using the infrastructure as a service solutions or the platform as a service or co-mingling them, what we're able to do is actually do an appropriate layout of what their environment is going to look like. For instance, this is an EBS lift and shift with the SOA application attached as well, right? So we can actually do complex architecture blueprints that we can actually then go deploy in an optimized fashion within the cloud. And what we want to do is think about the whole solution holistically, right? It's not just about a VM in the cloud, it's about having your landing server in the cloud, because you need a place where you can actually handle your file administration and be able to actually do storage coordination. We go ahead and put your OEM server in the cloud because we want you to actually have local monitoring the way that your DBAs would be used to that. Can you use some of the cloud native tools for some of the operations? Yes, but they're not as full function. So for this customer who is used to using OEM, we are able to actually show them how they can deploy that as a secondary solution into their cloud. They're also able to use their OEM on-premise to monitor it as well, so that you have it in both places, making sure you have a full enterprise solution. Right? We're making sure that we're handling firewall for security components, and we're actually able to deploy this. Now, what Oracle has also done is they've gone and bought a company called Rovello. So not only are we able to do this in a Visio now, when we're talking about thousands of VMs, we're actually able to create blueprints that are reference architectures that can be deployed directly into the cloud. Now, what you see here is you're seeing a wireframe document based on specific images that we have uploaded in a library. What we can do is we can deploy this exactly as is into the Google Cloud, into the Amazon Cloud, and now we can even deploy it into the Oracle Cloud. What this allows you to do is also decide if you want to do a deployment based on cost optimization, where it takes into region impacts, and it also takes in the cost of the instance size. Or you can actually deploy this for performance optimization, right, so that you're actually making sure you're getting the consistent, most reliable performance. This is excellent for actually taking the same blueprint and tiering out your solutions between dev, test, and production, and being able to deploy them. Because of our architectural background, what we're able to do is then take these and reference them back into the blueprints that need to be in your enterprise, so that you can see how it looks with your private cloud deployments, as well as your public cloud deployments. This is an incredible tool, right? This is at your disposal. You can learn how to use this. We're here to help you actually learn how to get into this mode, because this allows you to do true lift and shift. And because of the technology that's used here, it's called HDX. It includes 3 components. It includes a nested hypervisor, SDN network virtualized, and a virtualized storage overlay. And what that means is you can deploy your VMware VMs directly into the cloud, and because it's a nested hypervisor, lose your VMware licensing. You no longer have to pay for your VMware licensing. Right? So this is an incredibly cost-effective way to start looking at how you're going to make deployments into the cloud, especially with your Oracle technologies. But beyond that, Oracle provides a full complement of services. So when we talk about the Oracle Cloud solution, right, what we like about it as architects is the fact that we can mix and match the appropriate components to make sure that we're meeting your needs. And we do this by selecting, whether it be the database cloud services or just the infrastructure as a services, what is going to be best in your environment. And then we can use the integration services to make sure that you're not losing your existing investments on the on-premise, by making sure that it fully integrates with your infrastructure, your database tier, your middleware tier, and your applications that you've deployed on-premise. Right? This is what we mean about getting on with business. What you've actually been able to do is take exactly what you've deployed on-premise, deploy it using the services that allow you to optimize your estate in the public cloud, and then actually be able to use both. This is why we love Oracle. This is why it's a little easier for us to do this than with Amazon. When we do this with Amazon, quite frankly, it's really hard because Amazon has native services. They do web services, right? And so what becomes difficult is figuring out how I port something into Amazon, bring it back to on-premise, and vice versa. So doing test scenarios and things like that are really hard in AWS. So we're really appreciative of Oracle and this technology and the investment they've made because it's made our lives easier. And what you need to know is each of those services are full functioning. One of the things we do is we do a full day workshop with our customers explaining to them how these technologies work and actually going through the detail of actually deploying, provisioning, and monitoring these solutions, right? These are just some of the screenshots, but when you go through this process, you get to see how full-fledged the solution is. And it's designed for the user in mind. So the database cloud service solution is in mind for a DBA. So they understand what the administration tools. They have root access to the underlying VMs, which is a big deal for DBA. If I'm deploying application containers, the same thing. It's very developer-centric. And these workflows are intuitively built out to help the user understand how they're going to use the tool just as if they were on-premise. And we think this is a huge differentiator, along with the fact that you have OEM. One single pane of glass that allows you to monitor your on-premise and your public cloud deployments in the same view. So as a business user, I can actually see what I'm getting charged, right, from a chargeback perspective. And I can build in my rate models for my private cloud deployments and my public cloud deployments. And I can make intelligent decisions about where I want my dev test environments deployed, where I want my public environments deployed, right? I'm able to actually do infrastructure management on here. I can do patch management, whether it's a cloud solution with a platform as a service or an infrastructure as a service. So this allows me to have maximum flexibility but have complete control in a single tool that's meant for multiple users. And if that wasn't impressive enough, something that we're really excited about is Gen 2, right? Gen 2, which we've actually gotten a little bit of a preview to because we work with the product teams, is going to revolutionize the commoditization of how you do compute on the public environment. It's going to allow you to have dedicated solutions that are going to be twice as powerful as what we've been able to see and do today, which means instead of having to do lightweight, containerized, distributed applications that can only be deployed in flexible dynamic cloud environments, you can now deploy the exact type of infrastructure that you're going to be deploying on-premise. This is a game changer for hybrid cloud and large enterprise deployments because it no longer has to be either or. This is going to make it both, right? And it's going to make it both without having to do a lot of different engineering. So with that said, we like to talk about hybrid cloud, but what does it really cost? So one of the things we really tried to take into our architecture is not only optimizing you from what technology perspective, but optimizing you from a cost point. So what we can do is we'll build out your hybrid architecture, right? So very much we have your cloud region, we have your hosted region with your OOW, we have an underlying storage perspective, we look at the management domain, so we have like for like in the appropriate environments, we have the appropriate firewalls, right? And so we're able to build this out, but then how do you actually cost this? This is actually a pretty complicated endeavor. And what we do is we actually have calculation tools that we can bring to the table, size the environment, understand the shapes that you're going to be using for either from your platform or compute perspective, analyze the CPU rates, decide if you need to go with a metered solution, which is more expensive per hour, but you get to pay per hour, or a non-metered solution, which is much more economical, but you have to pay basically on a monthly basis for the instance, and then help you understand what your utilization targets are actually going to be. Once we have that, we can also do the block sizing, estimations, and it rolls up into an easy to understand cost analysis for what your total spend is going to be from your architecture. For your public cloud environment, your private cloud environment, right, and your overall spend for how you're going to actually be deploying these. And so, with that, really all we ask is, how can we help, right? We do this for a living. We help design, deploy, and manage enterprises, right? We're building out hybrid clouds for some of our largest customers. I'm sure some of you got to see our video that was played yesterday about how we transform JetBlue. We're transforming other organizations the same way by taking this architecture, very holistic approach to understanding how you can deploy public cloud instead of just taking a singular tactical, line of business approach to maybe deploying AWS or deploying, some other solution that's probably good, but maybe not fits completely into the enterprise. And the way that we do this is through our services portfolio, right? We've invested hours upon hours with our team of enterprise architects, building out the best standards for how you do Oracle DevOps in the cloud, regardless of cloud, how you do business intelligence, how you handle backups and archives for a sophisticated ILM strategy that doesn't require a tape storage vendor, right? How you can handle Exadata refreshes, where a lot of our customers are, and how that can be leveraged in a hybrid cloud scenario. How you can take packaged apps like EBS to the cloud because you're in a situation where you need to do a hardware refresh and you don't want to do that in your data center. You have a no hardware policy, right, in your existing data centers. How you do IaaS and PaaS, or how you even handle the migrations, which can be very complicated just to get data into the cloud, right? We've developed the patterns to make sure that you do not have risk doing that. Moving 9 terabytes into the cloud today is a lot easier than it was a year ago when we stood up here because we spent time figuring out how to do it. And with all of those services, what we want you to know is that we bring a blueprint to the table, right? We're not going to be experimenting with your environment. That was what we used to do. That was the crazy science lab of the last 10 years that I've experienced doing public cloud adoptions. But now we're at a place where cloud is mature, and you have an ecosystem of mature technologies and mature knowledge base to really handle any type of challenge that you're coming across. And we want you to work with thought leaders, which is who Cintra is. Right, so we're highly specialized across all the technologies that make up the cloud and are recognized by Oracle for this. Right. In addition to that, we're the FY16 Oracle North America partner for engineered systems. So not only are we cloud, we're also engineered systems and converged architecture. And if you haven't seen, we're also pretty proud of the awards that we've won just being here. We are now we're a recognized specialized cloud infrastructure partner for North America, as well as specialized SMB solution partner by Oracle. And it's because of the work and the videos that we're actually showing you today. And so if we were going to talk about where to get started, it really goes back to what Simon said at the beginning. We want to ask you, how mature is your architecture and what does your roadmap look like? And based on that, we can help you guys understand how we move forward, right, with an actual converged solution that includes a multi-cloud approach as well as a private cloud approach, so that you can take some of your legacy capabilities and get to the modern capability that you want to have.